Hello, all my students. I say all my students to start off this lesson video today because this first devotional part is going out to all of my students, all of my freshmen in Applied English, as well as all of my upperclassmen in Writing Workshop. A little devotional thought from Colossians chapter 3, verses 23 and 24 right here. I got thinking about these verses just yesterday during one of our mental health week activities. Got me thinking about why we work. And the verses say this: "Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for men, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving." Focusing on that fourth word in these verses right here, work. I chose these verses because today is a pretty big work day for all of my classes. For my freshmen, you guys are either taking your African American literature test today, or you are spending some time studying for it to take it over the weekend. You've got some work to do today. For my upperclassmen, as we wrap up our persuasive essay outlines, just getting ready to draft the full essay next week, you've got some work to do today. And it's so easy for us, especially as we're trying to juggle in-person and virtual work, it's so easy for us not to work at these things with all of our hearts. It's so easy to lose heart in what we're working on when we feel like we're just working for men, as these verses say. And what these verses mean when they say not for men, it's not just working for a paycheck, not just working to impress someone else, right? These verses are saying to work with all of our hearts as working for the Lord. Knowing that our work glorifies God ties in with that last verse right there. It is the Lord Christ you are serving. It's a reminder that in anything we do, we do have a chance to reflect, to glorify, and ultimately to serve God as well. Maybe that's hard to feel as you're taking a test for one of your classes. Maybe that's hard to feel as you're outlining for an essay. But what I'd like to remind you, especially in an English class, is that we're building skills that we're using not just for your future success, but also for your ability to live the Christian life, to tell the world who Jesus Christ is, to read and listen to God's word and understand it, to speak with clarity as we tell people the truth about Jesus Christ, and especially as we've been working in all of my classes, to write, as we get our thoughts clearly down on paper. Again, not just for our own success in the future, not just for a paycheck, not just for job security and those kinds of things, but also so that we can glorify God with our skills. Again, it might be hard today for you to feel that taking your test is working for the Lord, or that writing your outline is working for the Lord. Maybe you feel like you're just doing it because I asked you to. But I encourage you today to put your heart into it, knowing that this is not just for me. This is a position that God has put you in for a purpose, for a reason. And my prayer for you today is that gives you a little more encouragement, maybe a little more energy to do your best. These verses are not calling for us to be perfect, to work perfectly for the Lord, because we know that we cannot do that, but to work wholeheartedly, knowing that we are serving Christ. In those areas where we cannot be perfect, He is our perfection for us. Hello there, Applied English specifically. So kind of transitioning out of our devotional right here. Our objective for today is to show what you know, demonstrate your understanding of what we covered in our African American Literature unit by taking your unit test. Test covers, once again, vocabulary, just our last 10 words. Grammar, mostly commas and run-on sentences. There are some other grammar questions on the test. Reading comprehension, again, I will give you a new short story as part of your test that you can take, or that you can read, and then there are questions that follow. And then paragraphing to finish off this test. We'll look through individual parts of the test here in just a moment. We're almost done with our day 24 devotional video. Once again, I am going to cover basic directions for our test. One thing I would note regarding your test is that you can take yours virtually at any point this weekend. So you can study up as much as you need first. I'm just asking that you get yours done by the end of Sunday so that we can transition into a little writing unit for the month of March. Something else I would note here too is that this weekend is a good time to get caught up on missing work as well. I'm kind of in the midst of a grading wave right now, so I haven't fully caught up on all of my grading, but if Schoology is telling you that you are missing any assignments, let's get those done this weekend whenever you are ready. Perhaps you take your test first and then designate some time later this weekend to complete missing work, or vice versa. Perhaps you want to complete missing work first to prepare you for the test. You can take your test by the end of Sunday. Once again, next week, right before spring break, we are going to start a little essay writing unit. We're largely going to read through our prompt and select topics in our next lesson. We'll spend a little bit of time at the end of next week doing some research and doing some pre-writing to make sure that you're ready to write once we get back from spring break. Let's take a look at this test together. African American Literature Test. And notice the directions. Follow all the directions carefully as you answer the following fill-in-the-blank, multiple choice, and writing questions. Please know that there is a 70-minute time limit on this test. I don't think anyone will need that long necessarily. I just want to make sure that I can keep you guys honest with looking up answers and those kinds of things. Start new attempt. As per usual, part 1 is vocabulary. For these first 10 sentences, fill in the blanks with the appropriate vocabulary words. I highly recommend using a piece of paper to keep track of the words you use because each word will only be used once. And once again, use your parts of speech strategies and start with the easiest ones first. I tipped the blank $10 for carrying my bags so quickly and carefully. Just a pro tip, use your parts of speech strategies. The word the right here is telling us that we need a noun in this blank right here. And our nouns, as we remember, are guile. I tipped the guile $10. Chalice, I tipped the chalice $10. Trill, I tipped the trill $10. That's a lot of T's. Or porter, I tipped the porter $10. Take whichever one you think is best, pop that in there. You will not use that word again. Again, these are skippable too. So if it reads as number 3 because number 1 was directions. If this one's tough, come back to it later after you've eliminated more words. Take your time as you work through vocabulary. Once you get to 12 right here, part 2, grammar. Again, ACT-style grammar questions by selecting the option that best states the underlined part of the sentence in English. If the underlined portion is correct the way it is, select no change as per usual. Again, these are just a mix of grammatical things. There is one I want to look at together here. I think it's 20 and 22, that's right. Questions number 20 and 22, you'll notice the entire sentence is underlined. So as you are reading through options, you want to choose the option that best phrases that in standard English. It's very possible that these entire underlined sentences are run-ons that need to be repunctuated or split. Read all the answer options carefully as you work through those ACT-style grammar questions. We get to a short story, Breakfast in Virginia by Langston Hughes, kind of finishing off our study of African American literature with a fictional short story right here, but one that I know will tie in with a lot of what we've studied already. Notice on this one, there is a little blurb about the text here to start. I would read through that to give you some context on this story's setting and kind of what's going on in society at the time that this was written. You have the story itself. I did include the copyright information at the bottom there, just so I'm not committing plagiarism here. I will not ask you any questions about copyright information, just so you know. Again, you have some comprehension questions that follow. You can always double back to the story if you need to double check some information in there. On these ones, they're multiple choice once again, so use your eliminate choices button to remove ones that you know are wrong. Obviously, read questions carefully. Notice that there's a not, all caps, inside of this question, so read all those comprehension questions very carefully. Some of these comprehension questions are worth 1, some are worth 2, just so you know. And then this one ends with a writing question. In a 5 to 10 sentence paragraph, please compare and or contrast Breakfast in Virginia with one of the other African American texts we have studied. I gave you kind of your options of what we studied. Little recap: Frederick Douglass, his newspaper article, Booker T. Washington's speech, Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech, Chapter 10 of Just Mercy, or any of the poems that we read. Feel free to use those texts for the sake of comparison or contrasting here. I'm grading this one the same way that I've graded every other paragraph that we've done in this unit. 6 for paragraph structure. Is it long enough? Does it feel complete? And 4 for overall grammar and spelling. One pro tip I would give here, notice that it says compare and or contrast. So you can choose to identify similarities and differences between Breakfast in Virginia and one of the other texts. But since it's and or, you could choose just to compare or just to contrast as well. I just want to kind of see your paragraph writing skills as you tackle this one. You do not necessarily need to use individual quotes or lines from the text on these. Obviously you can if you like, but I'm just looking to see your critical thinking skills as you identify some similarities and or some differences between two texts that we've studied in this unit. One of them must be Breakfast in Virginia from what we read as part of this test. But you can choose any other of our texts that we've studied. Again, any of our poems or any of our other readings from before. Feel free to pull those out and use those as a reference on this test. Once again, you have an hour and 10 minutes to take this thing, so take your time as you're working through it. Please, please, please let me know if you have some kind of technical issue that messes with the timer on this. But otherwise, I think that's a fair amount of time to get this test done. Good luck. Have fun. Let me know if you have any questions in Microsoft Teams.